everyone, welcome back to Yulan's channel. Today we'll be talking about our first subunit of Unit 5, which is about memory. And hope you enjoy. And today's is just a quick intro to memory and some different types, and also some cognitive processes. So keep watching if you're interested. So memory is the recalling and retaining of information and past experiences. So cognitive processes describe how do our minds process all of the internal and external stimuli around us. We can consciously or unconsciously process information cognitively. So our first type, or first versus are effortful versus automatic processing. So effortful processing is the active processing of information that needs sustained conscious effort. Although learning with effortful processing requires attention, it can be useful for learning new information, developing skills, or solving complex problems. For example, if you decide that you want to play a brand new musical instrument like the violin, it takes effortful processing to practice and rehearse reading a piece of music, figuring out different string positions, and moving the bow. Whereas automatic processing is the unconscious processing of well-learned material. It is similar to the term muscle memory because a task is performed habitually without significant thought. Tying a shoe, riding a bike, or driving a car are all examples. Or consider an experienced knitter working on a scarf. Their mind can wander while simultaneously knitting because they have knitted scarves many times in the past, allowing them to work without any actively paying a real attention. Our next type is deep versus shallow processing. So as the name suggests, deep processing is the processing information with consideration into its meaning. Deep processing creates stronger memories because it involves elaborative rehearsal, creating a more meaningful analysis, whereas shallow processing is not as involved as deep processing. It uses surface characteristics to process information. The two types of shallow processing are structural and phonemic. So structural is encoding information with the use of visual and physical characteristics, and phonemic are encoding information using auditory characteristics. Then we have selective versus divided attention. So selective attention is the ability to focus your conscious awareness on a particular stimulus while blocking out competing stimuli. An important concept of selective attention is the cocktail party effect, which will be on the AP psychology exam test for sure, because I've seen it many times when I was doing past exams. The cocktail party effect is the ability to focus on a single speaker in a noisy environment. For instance, if you are at a party, you can listen to your friends speaking while ignoring everyone else who's the crowded environment despite their volume. Divided attention is the ability to focus on multiple stimuli simultaneously. It is also referred to as multitasking. An example would be singing a song while doing their dishes. Divided attention decreases the amount of attention placed on one task if there's more than one. For instance, if you are on the phone with your friends while doing your homework and your friend asks you questions, your attention to your homework decreases. And now we have metacognition, which is the ability to control and be aware of your own thoughts. An example of metacognition would be realizing you know the answer to a question on the quiz even though you cannot think of the answer at that moment, which prompts you to decide you should return to it later with a fresh perspective. Metacognition is a useful skill to have because it helps you become more aware of your own learning and thinking processes, and it can help you develop more effective strategies for retaining information and problem solving. It can also help you become more self-regulated and independent in your learning, which can be especially helpful in academic or work-related tasks. Now let's dive into memory. So as you all know, short-term memory is a type of memory that can only be stored for a brief period of time, usually about 30 seconds. The capacity of short-term memory is limited. An example of short-term memory will be retaining the phone number of a store in order to be able to call that number on your cell phone. One of the reasons why cell phone numbers are 7 digits without factoring in area codes is because the magic number for the capacity of short-term memory is 7 plus or minus 2. And now we have long-term memory, which is usually the opposite of short-term memory. and its capacity is unlimited. Unlike short-term memory, long-term memory can be stored over sustained periods of time. And now, under long-term memory, there are two types, explicit and implicit. So explicit memory is the stored memory of facts. For example, explicit memory is knowing how many continents there are in the world. Explicit memory can be further divided into two more categories, semantic and episodic. Semantic is the memory of facts, ideas, and concepts, for example, like a new term that you learned in your school, or episodic, episodic, which is the memories of personal experiences. An example would be telling a friend about what you ate for breakfast or the first time that you went swimming. And the opposite of explicit memory is implicit memory, or also known as procedural. So implicit memory is the type of memory, long-term memory, that is remembered unconsciously. One of the most common forms is procedural memory. Procedural memory is the memory of how to do repetitive everyday tasks. Examples of procedural memories include riding a bike, tying a shoe, and driving a car. And then other types of memory include sensory memory. There are 5 senses: taste or gustation, smell or olfaction, hearing or audition, sight, and touch. It's the ability to retain information about sensory information long enough to be recognized after the original stimulus has ended. An example would be recognizing the smell of baking cookies. Sensory memory can be further divided into two categories, echoic and iconic. Echoic is the memory of sound, lasts about 3 to 4 seconds. Remember, the sound can echo. Iconic is the memory of visual stimuli, which is like an image, which lasts about 1/4 to 1/2 of a second. Think of this as an iconic. And then we have prospective memory, and this is remembering to perform an action at a certain time. An example would be remembering to take medicine after breakfast. From watering plants once a week to turning off the stove after cooking, prospective memory is an important aspect of routine daily life. And our last type of memory is flashbulb, which is a clear memory of an emotionally significant event. Like an exceptionally vivid snapshot of a moment in time, flashbulb memories are believed to be highly detailed, clear, and accurate. However, flashbulb memories are not necessarily more accurate than other types of memory, as they are susceptible to change and influenced by a person's prior knowledge and expectations. An example of a flashbulb memory for many American citizens is attacks on the September 11th, 2001, which is the attack event. So that's in our lecture today. Thank you for listening, and I'll produce more high quality videos in the future. And please watch those videos too, and like and subscribe.